Okay, so welcome everyone to my personal updated tier list, and Ryan is interrupting in the bottom corner already. Wow, what a guy. My personal updated tier list in Mortal Kombat 11 as of post CEO. So right now, CEO is just finished and Viennality is around the corner in just a few days' time. And this, what you're seeing right now, is my existing tier list from after Combo Breaker. Those of you that watched that video will know that I said after all of the main kind of pro competition events, I will be updating the tier list accordingly. The way I place characters in the tier list, in my opinion, is competitive results, representation, matchups they have, and generally how they play the game at a proven level, competitively, high-level matches, the whole shebang. That's how I place characters. This is not the be-all, end-all tier list. This is my personal opinion based on my own experiences as a player, as a commentator, as a viewer of all the tournaments around. And this is the way I see the game right now. This will be a shorter video than the one I did on Combo Breaker, as of course that was going from scratch. This will be... I'll try and keep it as in-depth, but it's going to be less nitty-gritty because, of course, I'm basing this off of something, right? Not every character will change. Many of them will stay where they are. But generally, how I do tier lists is I kind of go from left to right, strongest to weakest in the tier. By how much kind of differs, it's why I want to really kind of explain my reasonings when I move characters about. So I'll try and kind of plug that up as best I can. So let's go from top down. We're going to take this one character at a time, and I'll let you know what I think of the characters currently. So right off the bat, I am going to move Cassie Cage. I am going to move her to... I will move her to number 2. In the list currently. Arguably number 1. Now we're going to start off with something uncertain right from the bat. Sonya does a lot in the game still. Like, Sonya is still top tier. Sonya is not leaving this top 3 spot. In fact, I would say this is going to be the top 3 in the game right now, in my opinion. These are going to be our top 3 characters: Sonya, Cassie, and Jackie. Sonya has some incredible application to pretty much every character in the game. Of course, she still has the mix-ups. She still has the damage. She is still played all the time. The amount of Sonya players that are doing well competitively is staggering. And that's one thing that combines both Sonya and Jackie. These are 2 characters that you see in the higher placings of pretty much every tournament now, right? They're winning pools left, right, and center. They're getting really far through the bracket, and we're seeing a lot more of them. Jackie particularly, we saw a lot of Jackie at CEO, a lot more than we saw at Combo Breaker, and it's because the community is definitely, obviously with a month in between, and the game's been out for 2 months, it's definitely been enough time for the community to kind of go, right, I want a rushdown character. Who do I pick? If you want cancels and good stagger game, you go to Jackie. If you want just built-in mix-ups and absolute mental damage, you go Sonya. And Sonya obviously has that full screen game. However, this is where Cassie could arguably, in my opinion, be number 1. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to move Cassie to number 1. This is not because she just won CEO. It was a good kind of demonstration of what this character is capable of. However, the big thing about Cassie, she beats Sonya, she beats Geras, and she does well against pretty much every character that's going to be in our upper echelon of games. Cassie she's not quite as explosive as the other characters, but I think she plays MK11 the best out of all these characters. Cassie Cage has 2 incredible variations. Her 2 variations pretty much cover everything you could need in the game. She is a good example of what the variation system could be like if everyone had variations that would kind of cover their weaknesses. Sonic Fox has kind of really been the main pioneer of the new wave of Cassie due to his use of Yas Queen, right? Variation 2. For unbreakable damage, not huge damage, but decent damage. Confirms into like 40% unbreakable fatal blow confirms using the bubble. There are matchups that the low shot or the crouching shot just doesn't It's a non-factor. It's punishable on block. It's not the be-all end-all, right? But at the same time, thanks Windows Defender Summary. I appreciate you. But at the same time, you know, that one move shuts down a lot of characters neutral. Now, the big thing about Cassie is, again, she does really well against Sonya. She does really well against Geras. She pretty much does well against most of the good characters in the game. On top of that, obviously, she doesn't have any kind of true standing mix-ups, but she does the kind of offense that clearly makes people squirm in this game, and that is throw baits and auto shimmy strings. Her 1-1-1 is one of the best auto shimmy strings in the game, bar none. It's safe on block, really hit confirmable, and by God does it look like her throw animation. And that's something that a lot of characters are beginning to get stronger with in that regard. I think the only character that Cassie doesn't do hugely well against is Erron Black in this S tier currently, because Erron Black will be staying up here as well. But even then, it's not unwinnable, right? It's just not quite as one-sided as maybe some of her other matchups in the game. For that reason, I'm going to have Cassie at number 1, because she is herself already definitely an S tier character, but she is also so good against the other S tiers, and that is a huge thing because of how popular these characters are. So Sonya's going to be here, Jackie's going to stay here. I really don't need to explain these three any further. I'm going to move Erron above Geras. I definitely don't want to move Geras any lower than S tier. I still really believe... I still believe that Geras is a powerful character in this game. He really is. Cassie's 1-1-1 is unsafe. Oh, okay, never mind. But you're already seeing that, like, when it gets blocked, you're seeing the stagger, right? The 1-1. Then you finish the 1-1-1. You know, 1-1 into whatever, right? Like, that's the whole point. She has options. But regardless, you know, moving back on to Geras, I definitely don't think Geras is any worse than S, really. I think we still see him do really well competitively. The Geras players are obviously still doing really well. Obviously, Deoxys got 9th at CEO. He lost to Ninja Killer in a really hype set. You know, the link is on YouTube. It wasn't on stream. It was recorded by just someone's phone. Obviously, you've got Omega, like, there are players really showing off this character, and again, they're doing really well. This is a tournament viable, proven competitive character. Geras is definitely going to be at the bottom of the S tier, though, for me, because of the fact that he has some really weird matchups. In a sense that there are characters that can just... His forward 2-1-2, right? That is kind of the main mid option he has. On Oki... in neutral, if he knows you're going to be blocking a mid, forward 2-1-2 is his option. As the game evolves, we're seeing more and more counterplay to that string. Some characters can just make it whiff entirely, get guaranteed counter hits on him for crushing blows, and all sorts of wackiness, honestly. Which we do see hurt him competitively. I know Jackie has an option for it. Cassie has an option for it. Obviously, Johnny Cage. Like, it's something that will definitely be a problem he has. However, yes, we're also seeing still from Geras new era as well. He is a very complete character still to this day. Even with those issues in mind, he still is incredibly powerful and still doesn't have any true, like, hard counters. He just has some inconsistencies with his offense, which most characters can't abuse, but some can. And the some that can, you do see in tournament quite often. Moving down to A tier, I'm kind of happy with how this looks, honestly, for the most part. I still think Scorpion is right up here at the top of A+. I definitely still wouldn't want to put Scorpion up at S, because I just don't know if he's quite as good as these characters, right? We see a lot, like, Scorpion is by far the most... If you look at any Smash GG tournament, right, Scorpion is always far and away, like, the most played character in the event. He has loads of people using him. They do all right. They get pretty far. But again, everything I said about Scorpion last time, I feel like is kind of still at that area. I am going to move Cetrion up 1. How do I do that? There we go. Because I think these characters are very, very close to each other. I feel like Cetrion... actually, I'll finish my Scorpion analysis first. I feel like Scorpion is, again, he's still really strong in the hands of someone that's good at making reads, good reactions. He's very dangerous. But again, he can be punished hard. He is unsafe in what he does. It's never guaranteed, right? He's a headache. And obviously in Combat League, he's a massive pain in the backside. But I don't think he's quite on the same level as the S tier up here. You know, I think he has enough kind of... He's just not as safe, right? Like, he has to take risks. He has to put himself on the chopping block eventually. As annoying as it can be, he has to do it. And also, again, I know that Cassie is a good matchup against him as well, I've heard. So he's not free of counters. But again, he's very strong, very powerful. So for me, he's going to sit here. Cetrion, I've moved up to here. I think Cetrion is very close behind Scorpion. Obviously, Dragon, Big D... are really showcasing like how powerful she is, but at the same time, like, this is a character that has to work. She does have to work hard. I know a lot of people aren't a fan of Cetrion. They don't like the keep away nature of her. I'm not a fan of her playstyle personally, but when we're talking like what she's capable of, you can't just pick her up and start smacking people around, right? Like, even Dragon, watching Dragon in CEO, the amount of ways he had to change it up to make her work at the highest level, like, it's really hard and clearly not the be-all end-all, right? We saw people, she is countered by Scorpion. She does have counters. But at the same time, she is really good at countering, I feel like, the meta of the game right now. The game is still quite aggressive. Again, you look at this top tier that we have up here. Variation 2 Cassie, very aggressive. Sonya, offense. Jackie, offense. Aaron, a lot of the time, offense. Geras, offense. Like, they have neutral options, but 9 times out of 10, you're going to see these characters going in, being aggressive, being in your face, with the exception of maybe Variation 1 Cassie. And even then, she can get in and start staggering with the mids, 9 frames, all she wants, if she wants to go for that, right? Cetrion is good at stopping people from being able to do that. A lot of players are impatient. A lot of players, especially now the game has obviously only been out for 2 months, they're still looking to kind of like get in, close the space. By nature, I feel like Netherrealm players are very aggressive. And Cetrion is a counter to that style, which I feel like gives her a lot more breathing room than usual. You even see, like, for example, when Dragon talks about Cetrion, he is like, he will hold his hands up and be like, she is a great character, but a lot of people don't know the matchup, and even if they do know it, they don't play like they know it, because obviously they're getting frustrated, they're getting tilted, and they're just walking into boulders. But then you watch, like, for example, when you saw Ninja Killer versus Big D, he's flawless blocking every boulder, so you can't frame trap into the geyser. We're seeing, like, people like Fox, of course, made the adaptation, and he's just like sitting at that magic range that she can't play keep away, and she can't press buttons as well. Like, she's not quite at the same level at the top, right? She does have counters per se, and I feel like it's less that Cetrion is S tier and more that people still aren't playing against her correctly based on what we've seen in tournament. Of course, we're going to see a lot of her. This is still tournament season. We have Viennality coming up this weekend. We have Evo coming up in like a month's time. Like, we're going to see more of them. So, of course, we'll have to wait and see how it changes. But for now, I'm happy with this. I still think Baraka is right up here. I think I still would definitely want this to be Baraka and Kabal. I really think that Baraka and Kabal are so good. They are some of the most solid and, in my opinion, well-balanced characters without one aspect to them, right? I would say that Baraka and Kabal could be the most balanced characters in the game had it not been for one thing each. Baraka, damage output, because by God, does he do a bit too much? And Kabal, no gaps anywhere. Those two things turn incredibly balanced characters into that step above, right? Because Baraka has 50% confirms multiple times a game. He has so much bang for his buck that it's crazy. And he's also, every string is safe. Again, every string is safe. He's got pokes for days. The extended buttons make his neutral jumps very dangerous. Let me have a look at that quickly. Cloud Scorpion, thank you so much for the donation, man. I will read the donation comment after the tier list video is done. But because of that, right, Baraka, he has safety. He's got that godlike jump kick. He's got neutral control. He's got buttons, safety. But his best thing by far, damage. And he has it in spades. which for me puts him that step above, you know, perfect balance. I think he's just a bit too heavy hitting. But at the same time, he's not dominating tournaments. He's just doing very well. Kabal, again, Kabal is... We see less of Kabal competitively, but we still see players putting in the work. We still see him. Obviously, like, we saw Zorakamaka with the other variation. You know, Mean Streak, the one with the cancels putting in work. That, again, Kabal is a character that is so well balanced, with the exception of the fact that none of his strings have a gap in them. And that is still something that is so good. It makes his counterpoke flawless block game incredible. Obviously, it's just not something he has to play around. There are certain characters that really thrive on getting in the middle of gaps, and Kabal just doesn't have to worry about that. But at the same time, you know, he is countered by certain characters. You know, Jade is a problem for him. Any character that can kind of like really keep him at arm's length and keep, you know, sit on the life lead. But at the same time, like this character is solid, like really truly solid. Whether he stays exactly here, we'll see as we get through to the other characters. I'm gonna move. I feel like I'm gonna move Sub-Zero down to the top of A, because Sub-Zero is definitely not quite as you know, super strong as we all thought at launch, but I definitely don't see him ever being like as bad as, you know, bottom 5 or really garbage as people would say otherwise. Again, this is a character we see him all the time in tournament. We see him all the time at a high level, and yes, he's yet to make any kind of like real major top 8s in the pro competition. With the exception, actually, maybe of the online event. Obviously, we know Buffalo, aka Daddy, is doing a lot of damage with him for sure. But again, it's two very good variations. Dead of Winter has a place, Thin Ice has a place, and he's not too easily abusable. But that being said, you know, he's not going to be a top character at the same time. You know, he does have his downsides. He is quite unsafe a lot of the time. You know, each variation loses something very important from the other one, right? There is no real best variation for Sub-Zero, which means that as a Sub-Zero player, you have to play both, and you have to know which one is appropriate. And when the game is 2 out of 3, that can be problematic. Scarlet, I am going to move down as well. I'm going to move Scarlet down below Sub-Zero, and I'm going to put Jade above Scarlet. I think Jade is incredible. I really do. I think Jade is so good in this game. Like there are, every time we see Jade, we see her doing like mad damage in competitive. You know, there are some really talented Jade players doing work out there. Obviously, you know, you've got Waz, Kitana Prime. We're kind of like the main pioneers right now. I know Big D plays Jade, Bio plays Jade, and she just, again, she's a bit like Cetrion in the sense that she really shuts down the way a lot of people play this game, and that is so strong. It really is, especially when people are kind of still finding their feet and you know, figuring out how they want to play neutral, how they want to approach characters on the defense. And Jade is just kind of like that brick wall, and every tournament we see Jade, she just seems to be getting better and better. Whether or not she'll stay the same way, I feel like the general defensive meta of the game will be shaken up quite a lot as soon as Shang Tsung is viable. I feel like Shang Tsung might make some of these characters need to serve a different purpose. Otherwise, he is going to kind of, I see them perhaps making them a little bit, not irrelevant, but less attractive, right? I feel like Shang is going to really adjust how defensive characters and defensive mains will work because of how he works. But we'll get to him at the end of the video, at the end of the list. Kitana, I'm going to move her way down, honestly. I would say kind of like at least, and again, this is all going to be changing, so, you know, this isn't going to be where she stays, but I definitely feel like she's on the lower end of A, honestly. So for now, I'm going to move her at the bottom. Whether she'll stay here, she probably won't, but she's very much dropping down this side. I don't see her any worse than this. I still think, like, for me, A tier is like the kind of like middle ground of the game, right? For me, A and B plus is kind of the middle of the game, really, so there'll be most characters in here. So I really want to kind of stick Kitana down there for now, because as the game is progressing, she is becoming weaker, I feel. I feel like her place in the game is dwindling somewhat. I think she still has good neutral, she still has good footsies, she's got the good jumps, but it's still very apparent that that's all she has. Her variation 2 is really situational and isn't really working. And at the same time, like, the amount of Kitana players that are like dropping her, moving on. Sami just kind of one of the few left with her, and even then, you know, I'm not going to say, you know, his one bad performance, and it wasn't even a bad performance. His less than his standard performance at CEO. Let's go with that, because I think that's fair. Isn't going to single-handedly make her drop down, but it is showing that she has some serious problems, especially by herself. But for now, I'm going to keep her down there, and we'll see where she shakes up as I move the rest. Scarlet, I definitely want to keep Scarlet in A tier. Exactly where she is, I think I'm going to wait and see. I definitely want to make some changes here. I want to put, out of these characters that we've got left down here, I definitely want to keep Liu Kang and Kung Lao around here. I think this generally might be where I keep these three. I think maybe... I think I'm going to move Jax. For me, this is quite a hard one, because this is now where we're approaching territory where we have characters that we know what they're capable of, but are we seeing it, right? Are we actually seeing that in tournament? Where Kung Lao is right now, I feel like that's still where he is. I feel like he is smack bang in the middle of it. He is hard to play. He has, like, honestly, only one real style that works. I think we've seen a lot of different Laos around with different variations, trying different styles, and the only real way that works, even when we saw Derpy with him, we saw obviously Foxy, we see a lot of you know, Lotus Fist players, and it is that kind of hat tricks, Z-hat, very basic mid-throw game. It is the only one that seems to work at a high level. The problem with that style is it is live by the sword, die by the sword. It is conditioning, it is reads, it is counter poking, but it is dangerous. It is dangerous. If you have, so Kung Lao is the perfect example of a character, right? With that style that we see, he's the perfect example of a character that, if he has a good game, he just rolls through you and makes it look like the opponent has never played the game before. Like, oh, just block, bro, or you get thrown 8 times around, and it's just hit buttons or tech, bro. And if Kung Lao loses a round, it can go so bad for him so fast. If you read the grabs, if you make the right read, because it all comes down to the grab, because the mid is safe. Most of what else he does is safe for the most part with that play style. And grab is the one that's the danger, there's the one that he will die for, but it's something he has to do. And because that's really dangerous, I feel like that is Lao being smack bang right in the middle of the game, because it's not too good and it's not awful either. It is exactly in the middle, but that is the only way to play Kung Lao. And for that, I'm going to move Noob Saibot up one, at least to put at least put Lao one space lower. Because I feel like this is a more accurate representation for Kung Lao, because I definitely don't want to say he's kind of up there, you know, with the rest of it, because this is pretty much him. How many characters we got here right now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and yeah, he's pretty much in the center of it. And because of that, I've got Kung Lao here, because he would be like up a space or two if he had other ways to be played as well as that. But he doesn't. He is quite one-dimensional at the moment, is Kung Lao, from what we've seen and what has worked in tournament. And because that's the only way of playing him, and it is so up and down, I have him kind of right here in the middle, maybe a tiny step below it, but that's the worst he's going to be. I think Kung Lao is solid, but he's hard to play, and that is the only way you can really play him right now. Now this is where I'm gonna find it quite a struggle, because I feel like Noob Saibot. I feel like Noob Saibot is gonna go above Scarlet. And I feel like maybe Liu Kang is above Scarlet. I feel like this is the way I see things right now. Because honestly, like, Noob Saibot has, there's no getting around it. So many people play this character. CEO alone, we saw them like all the time. But Noob Saibot, we originally thought, or at least I originally thought, I'm sure I said it in the original tier list, that I kind of see the character getting worse as time goes on. I don't know if I believe that anymore. I feel like the big thing that helps Noob is if 212, right? It is that maybe one of, if not the best auto shimmy string in the game. And auto shimmy is something that we know in this game is dangerous. Absolutely, thoroughly dangerous. And his is safe, and you have 100 years to hit confirm it. And it's special cancelable. So his auto shimmy string, not only is it safe by itself, it is one of the hardest to deal with, really. On hit, if he gets you in the corner, obviously it leads to gargantuan damage. And on block, he has more options than others. He has a good projectile, he has good footsies, and his damage output is incredible. Obviously, we don't see a huge amount of him at the higher end of tournaments, but we do see him kind of getting through it, right? We do see him begin to get further. And I feel like we are gonna see more of him on the pro competition scene as the game kind of moves through to the next couple of tournaments. How well he does, I guess we'll have to wait and see. I feel like the most prone to change is kind of this middle ground, because I feel like the differences between the characters here kind of get a little bit less as I go through. So the order of the characters here doesn't mean as much, but it's still kind of there. But what's really throwing me off is I don't know if I'd put him above Liu Kang. I don't know if I would. I think I would put Liu Kang above. I think I'd put Liu Kang above. I think I would. Because Liu Kang is so scary. But again, he has the kind of the Johnny syndrome of if he's against a character that he has whiffing issues, he is really a struggle. But that's not as many characters for the most part. But it's there. It's a problem he has to deal with. But he is not really that. Again, like he's not truly that awful. With that problem in mind, he has a lot of damage. He has amazing offense. Some of the best daggers in the game. Good fireballs. You know, decent. Some of the best anti-airs in the game. And again, you know, remember, guys, like this isn't final until it's finished. So this could move around. Like, for example, I'm not sure about keeping sub this high. I feel like the more I talk about these other characters, sub doesn't seem quite as up there, but he wouldn't move by much. He truly wouldn't move by much. I'll finish A tier for now, and then I'll get back to it and look at the order. Jax. I mean, first things first. Kano's going down for sure. Absolutely. Johnny's going up. Let's swap these. A lot of this bottom isn't going to change too much. Right, okay. That's looking a little bit better here. Okay. And that's looking a little bit too... And that's looking a bit... I'm just looking at the orders right now because of the way I see things, and then I'll kind of explain it momentarily after. Right now, kind of, if we move on to the lowest, so we can kind of come back to A, it will kind of make things make a lot more sense. I still have Devora at worst. I still have her at the bottom. She's still being picked at tournament. She's still losing. The kind of, you know, shortly after my last tier list went up, Sonic Fox started playing her online and he was doing well. But it hasn't translated to tournament play at all. There have been Devora players trying to make it work, but she can't. She still has the same issues. Even with the new wave of potential way of playing her, it was very meter intensive. The damage wasn't there. You'd still have to outplay someone like I mean, how many decisions would you have to make to take a life bar, right? She still has that godlike jump in normal. She's got some okay, you know, crushing blows that aren't terrible. But whiffing issues on like the overhead that whiffs if they stand block. Or that overhead that whiffs if they crouch block. Just generally tiny damage. She has like the lowest damage output in the game from traditional means. But she just isn't working out right now. Whether or not she stays that way, again, we'll have to wait and see. But I still think she's down there. I still think she's down at the bottom. Kotal and Kollector, I definitely see this as the bottom 3 in the game right now. Obviously, we saw Furious Pillow doing work at CEO in his pool. Obviously, he beat Jackal, he beat Hayate. But not only is he kind of really the only Kotal we've really ever seen, we saw the strengths and weaknesses of the character kind of immediately. We saw how good Kotal can look in winners. When he beat Hayate, for example, he's making really hard reads with the unblockable on breakaway. He's going for obviously delayed command grabs. He's mixing it up. He's getting full screen whiff punishes with forward 2. But we then saw him play against Toxin the day after, and it was incredibly one-sided because Toxin spent the whole evening labbing, and it was like, oh, hang on a minute. If I keep him away and like outspace his longest buttons, there's not much he can really do. And it really was as simple as that. I don't know how his game against Coach Steve was off stream. I also wouldn't want to put the weight of a character's tier placing on one player because I don't think that's fair. But he's the only real competitive representation of the character that we've seen so far. And we saw how the character can work when you're on the you got the upper hand, you're on the right foot, and you're making like God knows how many reads around to win, and it worked. But then you immediately see the negatives of the character the very next day and how he's easily zoned out. The Sunray in the first variation doesn't really help him that much. When he doesn't have the life lead, getting it back for him is really difficult. And I think a lot of it comes down to his variations. I feel like Kotal is plagued by his variations. I think truly, if Ascension had the normal Sunray, it would be miles better. And if Totemic had, something else other than the Air Cat, perhaps, or maybe a different totem, it would also be much better. I feel like the biggest thing that's holding Kotal back is his variations just don't make sense to me. I feel like everything in his variation doesn't quite work together the way you would expect. You know, like Ascension having the command grab, the uppercut, but then the alternate Sunray. The Sunray doesn't do anything for the variation. If anything, it arguably makes it harder to play because it's less useful. And then you've got Totemic, where the air cat and the ground cat with the blood totem, I'm not sure I see it. You know, I feel like his variations just don't synergize with each other the way they should, especially knowing what moves he has available. Because his base kit is so dependent on those moves. His base kit is so dependent on those abilities, it hurts. And the fact that his abilities just don't work with him the right way, I think it's probably one of the biggest things that holds him back. Kollector, I think these characters are very close to each other. I think Kollector may be a notch down, but not by much. I think, again, they're very struggles. Kollector, he has stuff going for him. It's just not enough to really make it work against high-level players. He's got a mid-command grab, which is fast. Cool. It has a crushing blow if it beats rolls. Cool. And mids. Fast, fast-ish mids. Very hit confirmable. Forward 1-2 is obviously an amazing string. But my God, does he get jumped out of for days. If you have characters with high movement, I feel like Kollector really struggles to pin them down. And when you have a character that the best kind of variation he has going for him is the command grab variation, of course. A character built around that doesn't really have the means to chase you down, it hurts. At least from what we've seen of him. Like, I want to see more Kollector. I look at what he's got on paper and I want to believe, but I just don't know if I do. Again, like, these characters aren't these bottom 3, they're not truly that far away from each other. But I feel like this divide between B+ and B is necessary. As you can see, I've moved Kano down. I feel like, again, this is where we start getting to the realms of characters with kind of serious problems. I definitely have seen Kano, like, obviously, in the last tier list I was quite a believer of Kano. This time, like, I still think he can work, especially in 2 out of 3, but there's no getting around the fact that he just straight up has he is I think he has maybe the worst risk reward for anyone in the game. He has to take risks to win. He has to. You have to go for command grabs, tick throws. You have to go for down 1 Kano balls really to make it work. Dirtbag is still crap. And you know, as of the last video in this one, there still hasn't really been any good uses found for it or demonstrated at all. And that really hurts him. I feel like Kano is only a few changes away from being a lot better fundamentally. But at the same time, like, I just don't know if we see it. I still have him above kind of Raiden and Shao Kahn though. I think he and Raiden are so close to each other, like very, very similar, because Raiden obviously has not similar issues, but again, you know, he doesn't hit the hardest. His crushing blows are really bad. That's easily one of his biggest downsides. His crushing blows just it seems really hard to actually get them. But the difference is, I mean, Kano still, you know, we're seeing Kano win pulls. We're seeing Kano get, obviously Bio got really far at Combo Breaker. There were 2 Kanos in top 24 against decent opponents on the way. And Bio got, did he get 17th? I think he got 17th at CEO. Again, losing to 2 like really, really good players. And it was he went all Kano again. So Kano works in tournaments. He just has to work really hard, or at least put his life on the line very often. I feel like if he had some better fundamental changes, you know, like if 112 was special cancelable, if you know, his 2-4 had a slightly longer range, if his down 1 was like plus 12 on hit instead of plus 10, so you could actually jail a standing button like everyone else can without having it to be like a, you know, just frame, don't get mashed on or you die. Like those kind of small changes I think would really, really help him overall. Like literally just a few changes like that to get rid of someone, because it would also mean that he's fundamentally better and you wouldn't feel the need to rely on the kind of potato mix-up of down 1 ball or down 1 grab, which would still work. It just you wouldn't feel like you have to do it because the rest of your kit just isn't as reliable. 112 would give him more damage output on punishes. 112 ball would be nice. You know, 112 whatever the hell else would work, right? It would really help him out fundamentally, and would help him kind of compete a bit more, because right now he can work, but it's hard work, it's risky work, and it holds him back, right? The second you see Kano come up against Sonya, you see him come up against Baraka, and all of a sudden it's very obvious as to where he struggles. And I'm not just saying that because they're the characters I lost to at Combo Breaker. It's because we saw it a lot at CEO as well. Just a quick disclaimer, that's not why I said those 2 characters. God, I just realized how bad that sounded. You guys are just going to have to take my word on that one. Right, so right here, this is where I feel like we're going to see the most changes, because now I'm going to shuffle around the A tier, and then I feel like, oh, and also I remember last time I said C tier was unviable. I don't believe Zavora is quite that bad, so I'm going to move her to the bottom of B. It's not much, but it's a noticeable difference in my opinion to do that. Right, so I am going to leave Frost at the bottom of A tier because I haven't skipped Jax talk. No, I'm going through the rest of this tier now. I kind of needed to set the bottom of it so the A tier made more sense to me, right? I am going to keep Frost at the bottom of A because I feel like, arguably, like out of these characters down here and her, I feel like she is the closest to being thoroughly quite solid, right? Quite solid. You look at her issues and they just don't line up to the same level that the other characters. The main thing that holds Frost back as well is I feel like no one plays her. But you look at what she's capable of. Like, she doesn't have great mids, right? Of course not. But the blade spin mine game is solid. She has decent damage. She's got amazing corner carry. She's got some of the best whiff punishes in the game from ranges most characters can't. Her counter zoning game is thoroughly good. Like, her counter zoning game is strong. And we even saw Tweedy pull her out in CEO Top 8 against Ninja Killer. And he did well. Every single game they had went down to a last round. And he was making mistakes that he's obviously, you know, acknowledged on Twitter, like throwing rounds with, you know, by not crushing blowing a throw where he could have done, or a few other things. This character has so much potential. The problem is, I think no one really plays her, but those that do, we do see that work. But again, like, she's like right at the bottom of A, kind of teetering on the top of this, but it's hard for me to say because I don't know if I would say she is. Because I would say the bottom of this and the top of this is like very minor. I think I still might drop her down for now. I feel like my gut is telling me to leave her here, but I don't want to do this list on my gut feeling. I feel like I'll make her the top of this. I'll make her the top of this, but it's close. Like, it is close between the top of this and the bottom of here, for me. In my opinion, anyway. But it's, I mean, for me, the difference there is like, you know, whatever. It still kind of means similar things for me anyway. Now let's talk about where this is gonna look. This A tier. Because I feel like some of this looks good, but some of it definitely needs, like, I feel like I need to move. It's hard because I feel like if there is a Jax that's gonna really convince us that this character is like super good, it's Gunshow. But Gunshow doesn't get the chance to compete. Like, I feel like if Gunshow was in tournaments, I would want to whack Jax way up. But we haven't seen it yet. He won Northern Arena though, so he did win Northern Arena, which for me I think would move him. I would move him above Lau because I do think he has more going for him. I feel like he can play a similar game to Lau, just maybe without the Z-Hack control, but he has like heated arms. He has obviously crushing blow on his forward throw. Like, his fatal blow is amazing. That gives him heated arms. But now I feel like this makes Lau look too low, honestly. Yeah, like Dab as well. But again, like, we need to see it, you know. My lists aren't always necessarily based on what a character is capable of or what you see a character doing online, right? I want to see results with a character. I want to see him used by players, and I want to see him do well for me to really put them somewhere, which is why I would have Sub-Zero here. However, should I swap? Would I swap these two? Oh yeah, and Jax with the corner as well, for sure. Like, Jax with the corner is like terrifying. I feel like I need to swap these two. I feel like I need to. I feel like they're very close, like super close, but I feel like I need to swap Jade with Sub because mainly results. Jade players are doing really well all the time. Sub is doing decently. He's just not topping tournaments, but he's getting far all the time. But again, you know, what we see and what I feel is different at times, right? I definitely wouldn't want to drop Sub any lower than this, honestly. I think this looks good for him right now. Now, I would say swap Blue and Sub. I don't know about that. I honestly don't. I feel like what Sub does works against a lot more of the cast. Like, I feel like, again, like, these three are very close, but I definitely wouldn't want to swap them. I feel like to me, that's looking pretty good. I think for me, this is looking like it makes sense. I think Shao Kahn still has... I'm going to look at the characters that I haven't really talked about too much. Shao Kahn, I haven't talked about him at all. I think, again, like, he's definitely not worst in the game, but we just don't see him do anything. Like, Jackal Jackal has been winning a bunch of locals and doing well with the character, but then, you know, he didn't get as far as I know he wanted to at Combo Breaker. Obviously, his CEO was a bit rough for him. But there aren't really any other Shao Kahns showing the character in tournaments, right? But that's it, right? Like, I feel like out of all these these characters I've got down here, I think Frost has the biggest potential to maybe be around, you know, the arse end of A. But we just don't see it because no one plays her. I feel like Tweedy could, you know, I want to see Tweedy stick with Frost because I think his Frost was looking so good. If he was doing like more optimal combos and, you know, playing around the crushing blows a bit better, he would have. I could definitely see he could have won that set. Every match he had went down to, like, you know, every match he had went down to the last round, and he knows he made those mistakes too. I feel like we could see more from Frost if Tweedy sticks with her, but we'll have to wait and see. And Shao Kahn, I want to see more of this character. This character could be so much better, but we just don't see it. You know, on paper he has a bit of everything. But is it enough, right? That's the question. You look at what he's capable of, and then it's yes. But why pick him for that when you can pick someone else that does it in a better way, right? I feel like that's the biggest issue Shao Kahn has, and the biggest thing that holds him back that's going to leave him down in B+ for me. But with that said, I feel like this is looking good. I feel like... Oh, I would want to move Johnny up because I know he could be strong, and I know he looks really good. But again, I feel like I really want to keep Johnny mid tier because when Johnny is against someone that he doesn't whiff against, right? He looks incredible. He looks absolutely so good. But then when he's against characters that he does whiff on, which is a lot of characters, he looks like complete trash. And that's a big problem. That's a big problem to have. That's right. That's the reason whenever you see Combat picking Johnny Cage, and obviously he's not the only Johnny Cage player. We've got Irish Mantis. We'll be seeing him in Vienna, so we'll see more of him, I hope. Vendetta at CEO. Obviously there are a lot of Johnnies online as well. Like, we will see more of this character, but what we see of him, like, there's a reason you never see Combat pick him against anyone that he whiffs on. And even then, like, you know, is it enough a lot of the time? Sometimes yes, but then against a lot of the cast, no. For that reason, like, I want to put him here against Kung Lao, because a big thing about Johnny that I think makes him look quite strong is the fact that we never see Johnny players play around crushing blows because they can't, because his crushing blows are really impractical, and he still does well in tournaments. Like, obviously Combat is kind of really flying the Johnny flag right now. But then look at the moves that Johnny is capable of using. You rarely see Combat use the parry. You rarely see him use the fist bump. And you never see him go for the clothesline because it's a flawless block punish reaction every time at the highest level. Yet he's still making this character work. Combat is literally playing, a lot of the time, a variationless version of Johnny Cage, and he's still beating ass because the character is fundamentally really good, which is why they have to be careful when they decide to buff him. Because if they do, it could very easily result in him being absolutely insanely good. So I think out of all the characters, if they decide to change, they're going to have to be the most careful with Johnny Cage. But for that reason, I have him here kind of in the middle because, I mean, again, like, when he works, he looks really good, and when he doesn't, he looks really lacking, and he whiffs against a lot of characters. Jax is more consistent across the board. Jax is obviously what he does works against a lot of the cast. He's got good mids. He has 2 viable variations that, again, Jax players really have to be able to play both, I feel. Hunker Down is one of the most explosive characters in the game under certain circumstances. Without heat, it's kind of lacking. Obviously, standing punish damage is pretty meager for him, but then you can, you know, if you've got the execution, you can punish with a 40% command grab if you want. You can combo into it for like 60% damage. You can get amazing crushing blows off of safe options that you get with Hunker Down. Obviously, the more heat you have, the heat missiles become even better. Like, Jax I would want to put Jax higher, but we don't see enough of him competitively. I honestly feel like if we saw more from Gun Show, if Undead Jim could travel, I don't know if he's going to Viennality or Chaotic Throwdown. I hope we get the chance to see it. I want to see these Jax players that I know are really good with the character. Do it with him in tournament, you know? Do it with him in the pro competition events, whether it's the online ones, whether it's Viennality, Evo, whatever. I just want to see it. Because I feel like he has the chance to really shoot up here if we see it work competitively, and we haven't yet. I know Rewind's been going to Jax as well. I know he's been playing a lot of Jax. Whether he sticks with Jax, I guess we'll see. I know he had a bit of a rough time at CEO, but, you know, I would never, ever count Rewind out, especially considering Evo is on the cards very soon. But I feel like I feel like this is good. I feel like this is where I see the game right now. I feel like we have more pro competition events coming up soon. So again, you know, this could change within the next couple of months, but for now, I'm happy to see this where it is. I feel like this is a solid representation for the game. I feel like, again, like, don't take this as gospel. This is my opinion. This is obviously going to be on YouTube as well. So thank you very much for watching on YouTube. Let's feel free to discuss this as well. Obviously, if you guys want to leave your comments or, you know, hit me up on Twitter or whatever, I'm happy to chat about it. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. This is my own take on how I see the game right now. Again, like, a lot of these characters aren't ahead of each other by much, you know, so try not to take exact placings too much to heart. But I feel like the general tiers I've put these characters looks really good to me in my mind. But yeah, thank you very much for watching YouTube. I'll catch you guys next time. Let's chat. Oh, shit. I forgot to talk about Shang Tsung. God damn it. Right. I forgot to talk about Shang Tsung. So I'm going to edit this into YouTube because I just realized I forgot to talk about him. I'm not placing him definitively in this tier list because, as I've been talking about, I do this off of competitive results and representation a lot. And he's, at the time of this video, he's not viable. He's his first tournament he's allowed is going to be Evo. And Evo hasn't happened yet. So I'll add him to my post-Evo list. But for now, I would put him no worse than A+ tier. No worse than A+, maybe even S. It depends on how his matchups kind of develop. But right now, he is looking good. He is looking so strong. He has counter zoning. He has high damage on projectiles. He has actual zoning. He's got fast buttons. He's got plus frames. He's got anti-airs. His crushing blows aren't bad. He's just good. He's just so good. And I know a lot of people are playing him, and a lot of people will be playing him at Evo. I think Evo might even be like the Shang tournament because of the amount of people that I know are looking to play him. So we'll see there. Right now, I would kind of put him maybe like no worse than A+, maybe S. I definitely think he's kind of like upper echelon of the game. I would definitely put him at top 10 for sure. I think he definitely belongs up there. But we'll have to wait and see if it stays that way. See you later, YouTube. Sorry for the edit. I'm well good at this.